I don't know that there is any question more complicated than this question of whether Christians should seek power. The place to begin is by fully taking on board the New Testament language of adoption. The New Testament speaks of us as being adopted, and it uses the language, the specifically gendered language of being adopted as sons. And this applies, I think, to males and females. But the language of adopted son in the Greco-Roman context meant that you were the heir. You were the inheritor of the possessions and power of the paterfamilias. And we are adopted in Christ to that position of sonship, of adoption, of being the heir. To use Old Testament language, we are bearers of the image of God. And this means that our fundamental posture towards power is we have more of it than we know what to do with already, just by virtue of who we are in Christ, and by virtue of God's Spirit living in us. This is why I think the apostles of Christianity, these motley crew of fishermen and zealots and low-level functionaries in the Roman government, once the resurrection had happened, carried themselves with such incredible serenity and authority. They weren't necessarily pursuing power, they had power. They'd been clothed with power from on high. That's the language of Pentecost. So whatever other kinds of power we may acquire as Christians, we already have the kind of power we most need. And so then the question is, if we find ourselves within human structures of power that seem to give us access to certain levels of possibility or capacity, should we take those? And I think the answer is basically yes. That if we're given power, power is given for stewardship. It's meant to be stewarded for flourishing. It's meant to be stewarded on behalf of the vulnerable. And if we're given that, I think we should take it. Should we seek it? Only with the counsel of friends. Only in the context of a Christian community that is constantly recalibrating our sense of true power to the power found in Jesus. And if you're part of a community like that, and you're constantly returning to the real source of power, I think in limited and careful ways, you are free to seek that which you are made to do and the power you need to do that for which you were made to do. But be careful to always remember the real power is the power you were clothed in when you were adopted by the Spirit as a son or a daughter of God.